Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Costa Rica Crypto. Today I have the pleasure and the honor of speaking with Ali from Lumeos. And I'm actually really excited about Lumeos. I talk about a lot of projects that have some pretty profound effects kind of on a social level. And I think that Lumeos is one of those things. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I guess if we can just kind of start, Ali, can you kind of introduce yourself? Just talk a little bit about you, where you came from, and how you found yourself in the position you're in right now, building this thing on EOS.
Good to have me here. My name is Ali. I come from the engineering world. I used to be a software developer. I worked at Amazon a few years back, and then I decided to move on to the Bay Area, and I got a job at Google. And I've been doing a lot of investments early last year, I guess, with crypto, but I also was looking into the technology behind it. And last year I decided to basically quit my job and pursue crypto for my full time. I started working as a lead engineer at B-Token. It's a crypto startup on Ethereum focused on home sharing. And then earlier this year, I've been experimenting with EOS a lot, and I decided to build a project on EOS that focuses on data sharing, and that's how I founded Lumeos. So right now I'm the founder and CEO of Lumeos, which is the data sharing. We're changing the way we do data sharing online using the blockchain as our backend. So pretty excited to talk more about that project. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm always honest with people. I had kind of heard about Lumeos, and I really dug into it before this interview. I listened to some of your previous interviews, and I did quite a bit of background research. And it's similar to other projects, but not in the same way. Like what you're doing right now is pretty big. And I'm just going to kind of give you my idiot's interpretation of Lumeos and kind of what you're trying to accomplish. I'd love for you to tell me whether that's accurate or inaccurate and why. I've kind of said that it's almost it's similar to Scatter for your private key, where you're doing an exchange with your private key, except you're doing an exchange with your personal information, which is being incentivized by tokenization. Is that accurate? Is that inaccurate? How would you kind of break it down? If you had to explain it to your 10-year-old nephew, what would you say you were doing? Yeah, so it's very similar to Scatter in a sense, but the main difference is when you go to your Scatter, you put any information, it's public. What we're trying to do is to keep your user data private, protected by your account, your cryptographic key through encryption, and store it in your wallet the same way you control your cryptocurrency on the blockchain. So in a sense, we're trying to tackle a very interesting and complicated problem. It was pretty complex when we sat down and tried to actually figure out the full workflow of how we can keep private information on a public blockchain. And that ended up us thinking, okay, we actually have this amazing system, we might as well patent it. And that's basically the idea that drove Lumeos to what we are. So we're building a platform for where you store your data encrypted with a cryptographic key on the blockchain through hashes. Then you can exchange access to the data for an account by giving them the cryptographic key to unlock your data in exchange for a cryptocurrency, which is our Loom token, our Lumeos token. And since it's all happening on the blockchain, the only thing you can see is the exchange between hashes and private data. So on chain, you will never have access to a specific user's metadata or information like location or date of birth. But you will be able to do it by unencrypting the data offline and figuring out everything. And the way we're doing this is through two entry points: the mobile application on iPhone and Android, and through our SDK, which is going to be on a decentralized marketplace for APIs.
For sure. So if we were to, I guess maybe to really dig into this a little bit more, let's talk about the root of the problem. And this is why I was actually so excited to talk to you today. And this is why I reached out for an interview with you today. There's a lot of things that have been going on for a long time in regards to data that are I don't think that people have a good comprehension of the fact that every time they're going onto a social network, be it Facebook, be it LinkedIn, be it Twitter, the information that you're putting in there is worth money. And people are taking this information and they're selling it, or they're using it, or they're selling it to somebody else. We'll get into something in a little bit, but can you kind of explain how that has kind of pushed you in the direction to create this, and just talk about the industry that people's information that they're voluntarily giving up has become a massive money grab?
Yeah. So in a sense, the model that happened with let's say social networking and social media is users are sharing a lot of information every day. The data sharing market is a $250 billion market, and it keeps on growing. It's like growing at 40% rate right now, and it's not stopping. It's not like hardware where it just reaches the limit. It keeps on going. There's always a lot of content being generated. But the paradigm was you share data with those providers like Facebook or Blogger or whatever. And in a sense, you don't own what you're sharing. They own the data on their servers. And because they own it, in a sense, they can do everything they can to monetize it as much as possible. And they have every bit of information. I call it metadata. For instance, how long you actually looked at that video, the likes, the stuff that you like, the stuff your friend like in comparison to what you are seeing on their platform. All this kind of metadata can be used in order to target you with relevant advertisement. And that is the current monetization model. But so again, like the root cause of this problem is the fact that you're not owning it. And with the latest advancement in blockchain, you can decentralize, meaning remove the ownership part. And because you're putting something on a decentralized blockchain, which is a public ledger, you can actually protect some of its information and make it private to you only. And that's where the ownership part comes in through the cryptographic hashes that you can store your data encrypted on a blockchain, and in a sense, you're the only true owner of it. Now that you own it, you can own its monetization aspect. You can also control its privacy fully, meaning you can say who you want to have access to it on that public ledger.
For sure. So for example, like breaking it down super simple, I log into a social media site. I decide if I want to give them my information, and then of course I exchange my information for lumens. Is that kind of the basic version of this? And of course, those lumens could be either exchanged, stored, traded, whatever it might be.
Yeah, the way it works is we wanted this to be in everybody's pocket. So we created an iPhone and Android application where you log in with your identity on, we create an identity for you on the blockchain. Right now we're using the EOS blockchain. And then we ask you to input some of your user data, like I guess we're just starting with simple information like gender, location, and age. And then that information will only be stored on the phone and will be encrypted through a password that you create and stored under your account in EOS. And then will basically, what you can do is you can then give some people the ability to see that data. We wanted this to be open for anyone to use, like basically any app that wants to access your data. And we wanted to also create a proof of concept decentralized application to prove that, okay, data is very useful. And that's why we created a polling tab that that users can basically answer polls, and their answer will be, again, like anonymized and aggregated. And then when somebody buys a poll, the user will get their money, some part of the tokens from profits, just for the fact that they clicked a button and say yes or no on a poll and provided their gender, location, and age to the poll provider.
Here's why I really like what you're doing. And I do really like what you're doing because I think it's a great service to a lot of people. There's a certain very well-known app that's very blue. I'm not even going to bother saying the name. You know what I'm talking about. And there was a recent uproar over something that was pretty serious. And this is why I love what you're doing. They were about to exchange information with somebody that probably wasn't in the best interests of people. You give this information up to them. They own this information, and they can do whatever they want to do. Do you know exactly what I'm referring to, and do you want to speak on it?
Yeah. I mean, so earlier this year, I think everybody started getting more interested in privacy after the Cambridge Analytica issue that that went on the news that there was, I guess, a bug in the code of Facebook that allowed them to give extra information that for people who did not decide to share their information into the into the aggregator, which is called Cambridge Analytica, which ended up being like almost 100 million users on the platform. And the fact that this happened without the knowledge of a lot of people outside of Facebook, some of the people inside Facebook also didn't know about this, just shows how vulnerable user information is for these kind of hacks. And that actually was one of the reasons we wanted to focus a lot on privacy. And one of the ways we're solving this is by doing these things privately on a public blockchain, so that users can see exactly, and they can turn off who can access their data by just like randomizing the key again, and then the user will never be able to access their information anymore on the blockchain. So privacy is one of the very important problems that we can actually solve through the distributed ledger.
I think it's an important one, man. I think that a lot of people are ignorant to that. I think a lot of people don't understand that every time they're typing in, my name is Bobby Joe and I am this tall and I work here and this is my kid and this is my mom and this is everything, all that information is taken, it's out of your hands, and companies are making a killing. And essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to take that information, put it back into the hands of the user and say, no, that's your information. You decide where it goes, you decide how it gets used, and we're going to make sure that you're compensated for that. So I think that is epic. And that is kind of like the true spirit of EOS. And that's why I'm excited about what you're doing. Can you kind of speak on just some of the token economics, like maybe not too in depth, but just kind of a quick ride through that? I understand you have a beta coming up right away and you have an airdrop happening at some point.
Yeah. I mean, just to simplify, the way we're doing it for the next 1 year is a fixed token supply where users will log in on our platform, give some of their information to be used basically used to answer these polls. And whenever they do this, they get Lumeos tokens. And the way it works, in order to make more tokens, you go ahead and start answering polls. And the moment a poll gets like 1,000 users answered it becomes kind of valuable. So we're starting with user research questions, and we have a partnership with a few companies that will pay actually to get analysis insights from a big demographic. Let's say they wanted to test out a new feature that they're building for their application, and they pay us as the company, and then we take a small commission, and then we give the tokens back to the economy through our Lumeos cryptocurrency. So we exchange whatever, like if they pay us in fiat or crypto, we'll just exchange it for Loom, and then we'll put it back into the ecosystem where we give away pretty much like a majority of those profits back to the users who participated in the polls that the paid companies have done. That's like the pretty basic model that we've built probably for the next year, and then we can like reevaluate based on our user growth, inflation, and other models for our crypto economic model.
You have, as I understand, and I read in the white paper, of course, and it's been brought up in other interviews before, you have a pretty hefty goal ahead of you. And based on what I'm hearing, like I really hope you achieve it, because I like what you're doing. I think it's about time we started taking back some of the power. I think it was 10 million users by 2020. Is that correct? How do you plan on accomplishing that?
Yeah, so in order to do that, we cannot only target crypto market. So we're building a heavy business development and growth team right now. And so to give you an idea, for the past month, we were running on a zero marketing budget, and we actually got 5,000 users interested in downloading the beta. And so even though we mentioned it, that we'll start giving it out, we ended up only giving it to a portion of those 5,000, because 5,000 is a big number for beta testers. And our goal is to graduate from beta in September anyway. So right now, the feedback that we got from the users who actually downloaded the app is that it's amazing. It's like way ahead of a lot of other apps that are trying to do something decentralized on the blockchain. And our goal is by September to be on the App Store, and then continue our expansion through 3 different categories. The first one is crypto. So crypto community, crypto user research, and that itself, like between like myself, who's been in crypto for a while, and my other connections, can easily be 10K to 100K users before the end of the year, especially if we go the user research route and start actually paying users with tokens. And in addition to that, we're doing an airdrop, which is to EOS token holders, which also will give us access to a lot of users. Our airdrop is different than the regular airdrops that a lot of companies are doing. We wanted to make sure to cap it to whales, so it's not like one-to-one for whales. And same thing with, we want to make sure that users are active on the network and they actually sign up on our platform in order for them to see the airdrop in the first place. That will actually give us a lot of exposure and users. And given that there's like thousands, probably tens of thousands, even like over 100,000 users on EOS, we're basically also getting a big market chunk over there. So that's like the first chunk. The second chunk that we wanted to focus on is colleges. So the best part about what we're doing is we want to educate our users and anyone that data is important. Data is a digital oil in a sense. And we wanted to make sure to educate students also about the privacy and the importance of it. So what we did is we started the Campus Ambassador program in most of the colleges in California, focused on where we went to like Bitcoin clubs in Stanford, Berkeley, and the other UCs in North California and South California. And we're building a big community of ambassadors that will basically spread the words throughout their colleges and get us access to lots of students that will sign up on our platform and build communities within every college. So that's like our second go-to-market plan for students. And this will give us access to also, again, like 100,000 to like 100,000 students probably in 1 year. So by next fall semester, which is fall 2019. And then the last bit is enterprise. We're focusing on having a big integration with enterprise. And then when I say enterprise, think SurveyMonkey, yes, which is a big industry in itself. And as of like right now, it has billions of surveys a year. It's accessing millions of users as well. Yep. And actually has not been giving, like does not usually give out any of the money that is paid for those surveys to the users who participated. I mean, the most you can see is probably like a raffle for a gift card of $25 or something like that. But actually providing everyone who participated something, no one has been doing that. Actually, I mean, it's not easy to do in the first place before blockchain, before crypto, where you can be as simple as like, oh, we'll just give you crypto for this. And there's no like easy way to do that in the current centralized model of SurveyMonkey. And with what we're doing with enterprise is we're focusing on internal and external, and that will give us, again, that will be our propeller to the 10 million users in between 2019 and 2020. It's definitely like I guess what we used to call it at Google a moonshot, and we're definitely hopeful that we can do it based on our current projections of how things are going with our, like as I mentioned, we have not done any, like we have spent $0 on marketing budget so far, and we were able to get 5,000 users. So like now that we're actually starting to getting funds, it's going to be a lot faster to get a bigger user base as quickly as possible.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I was one of those 5,000. I didn't get my invite to the app yet, but I did sign up for it. And I signed up pretty early too, as soon as I heard about it. So I'm not, whatever, it'll come when it comes. But just know I'm excited to check it out. I'm excited to try it. And I think that that's really cool. I also do want to say that I am personally a user of SurveyMonkey with one of my other businesses. I do a ton of surveys. And I spend a large amount of money to use that. And not only that, but the people who are giving me that data, I know for a fact, is being taken by SurveyMonkey, stored, and then quite likely sold off as profit. So I'm paying for a service. These people are giving information. SurveyMonkey is taking that information, and God knows what they're doing with it. So that's one of the other reasons that I'm really behind what you're doing. I want to just quickly ask you a question. How does this project reflect your personal values? You know, is this something that's close to your heart, and why?
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to launch this is because of social issues, honestly. Like I wanted to build a user base that we can ask questions anonymously and be able to freely say what's on our mind. You know, like when you go to Facebook, you say, what's on your mind? This is what I want. Like actually say to people what's on your mind, either privately or publicly. And I want to tackle like social issues, mainly like the rise of suicide in the millennial demographic that I've been like watching for a while, the rise of depression, and I wanted to get to the root cause of it, and that only can happen through communication and being able to say what's truly on your mind. And I've been studying that mainly the problem is stemming from social media, reflecting only the good stuff, where you only share like everything good that is happening. I want to be able to create a platform where you can actually share anything that you like and be able to get feedback as well. So we're hoping to reverse the way social media has done sharing and using this kind of platform.
It's so interesting that you would say that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm passionate about that as well. Like, I think you're right. I think that's bang on. That social media is possibly contributing to a lot of depression and a lot of social issues, in the sense that we plaster images all over the place. Like, my life is great, everything is good. All you see are like these pictures of, and it's ironic because I won't get into it, but it's ironic because I get where you're coming from, because I do quite a bit of marketing and stuff like that in the fitness industry, and just everybody just consumes this content all day long of these people who are perfect and their life is perfect. And sometimes you just want to pick the computer up and throw it off the. I think nobody's life is perfect, and I think if you can create an ecosystem where people can kind of express the good with the bad, I think that'd be really, really interesting, man. I like it. I like it a lot. How important is decentralization to this project?
It's actually super important. I mean, the core problem that we're solving is data ownership, and that cannot happen if we're just storing the data centrally, because the moment you give me your data and we put it on our own servers, you don't own it anymore. But with decentralization, the fact that no one owns it in the first place and you are adding a lock onto it, you pretty much you are the owner of that data, and as long as you are the owner of a private key that only you have access to. So that itself, we really needed the blockchain for our project to actually solve this ownership problem in the first place.
Yeah, I love it, man. I'm in awe. I think it's great. I think it's really, really cool. I like the fact, I like projects that just put resources back into the head. I'm not going to go off on a rant, don't worry. But I think that there's a lot of manipulation and everything from the banking industry to the information industry. I'm involved in some other projects that are kind of along similar lines, yet very different, in terms of putting things back into the hands of the people, because we have these mega entities, and we're giving up information, we're giving up money, we're giving up a lot of things, and I think that your project could possibly redistribute that, and I really, really like it. Is there anything else that you wanted to drop, or where, at the very least, like, where can people find you? Where can they contact you? I'm going to post all your links in the video below. But if they want to find out more, I see you guys have an ambassador program as well. Where can they come and seek you out and have a chat with you?
Yeah. So right now you can just go to our website, lumeos.io, and all the information is there. We also are putting together a page specifically for the ambassador program. We want to build multiple demographics. Basically, we're building a crypto ambassador program for our crypto influencers, and also a campus ambassador program for colleges. We actually been having a lot of signups and a lot of interest within colleges, which is very exciting for us. Our latest partnership with Students for Liberty also will push that further as well, for mainly pushing education about privacy in that sector. But yeah, our Telegram is also up on the our website. Usually there's a good conversation going on over there, and we're definitely excited to expand the beta app for all the users on our beta list, and then make it public as soon as we can, and hopefully by the end of September.
Yeah, you don't have to explain yourself to me, man. I understand how things go. I just know that I was there. I was into it. And I'm, whenever it does come out, it comes out. And I'll definitely give it a shot, and I'll come over and I'll have a chat with you. I really thank you for taking the time to speak to me today. It's been a really, really cool conversation. I think your head's in the right place. I think you kind of have the spirit of EOS in mind, the spirit of decentralization in mind, and you're kind of starting to just taking the power back, man. And I think that a lot of projects are doing this with EOS, and I think that has the cumulative power to change the world. So I know you guys are no joke. I know you've got
Kedar on the team as well. I know you've got a lot of heavy hitters who have, you've worked for Amazon, Google. So I've got more than enough faith that you're going to be able to pull this off. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we sign off and move on?
No, there's some interesting partnerships coming up in the next couple of weeks. I guess if you're following us, but otherwise, that's all I had.
Awesome. I think it's more than enough, man. I think you're fighting the good fight. I like what you're doing. Once again, I won't get all hippie. They're coming for us, but I think that redistributing some of the power is something that has been a long time coming, and the fact that we can do it with blockchain, the fact that we can do it with Lumeos is a really, really cool thing to me. You can expect me to be downloading the beta, and you can expect me to be tuned. I'll post all the links below. And I just want to thank you for coming on and taking the time to speak to me. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. I'll see you later, Ali. Thanks.